A big story. The media is trying to brace themselves, and you and their fans over there on the left, for what could be a really positive thing for Donald Trump, but not just Donald Trump, for presidents for years to come, because it looks like the Supreme Court is actually going to side with him on some of this immunity stuff, as they should. I mean, if they don't, then, presidents could be in a whole lot of trouble for all kinds of things. I mean, you could go after Barack Obama, could you not? For the drone strikes that killed 2 Americans in Syria inadvertently, mistakenly. Should he be held liable for that? What about the illicit substance that was found in the White House? Could Joe Biden be liable for something like that? I mean, you understand, like, you're opening a kind of Pandora's box. If you don't have a certain expectation of immunity, if that's not there, then you kind of could be in this open season environment. Just like they have down in Latin America, where everybody's in and out of jail and then back into political office. Lula, great example, right? He was in jail. His vice president was in jail too, and now he is back as the president of Brazil. We don't need that. We don't want that. We are not Latin America. We are the United States of America. And so the Supreme Court is very carefully looking at this. And now, people are freaking out. People like that guy over on Morning Joe Scarborough. He's like, I always respected the Supreme Court, maybe, until now. Watch.
And, Mika, how surprised. I've always been a big defender of the Supreme Court, federal judges. I believe they've been a great balancing act throughout the Trump presidency and beyond, and have usually ruled on these issues in a way that holds the country together. I'm not talking about abortion. I'm not talking about ideology. I'm talking about these Trump challenges. And yet I must say, even I was stunned that even while I want them to clearly define the outer perimeters of official acts, I think this is an important exercise by the Supreme Court. But the fact that some of the conservative justices sat there and allowed Donald Trump's lawyer to say that a military coup could be an official act.
Things,
A military coup could be an official act. He went down the list. He was asked, went down the list. In any past Supreme Court hearings, somebody doing that would have been derided and mocked and ridiculed here. Other than Amy Coney Barrett, who was like, wait a second. Hold on.
Hold the phone.
I've got to say the other Trump appointees and Alito and Thomas are, maybe it is. It was jarring, and I'm rarely jarred by the Supreme Court. I understand their role and what they do, and that there are very conservative and very liberal people on the court. But in this case, it was staggering.
Shocking.
Okay, maybe they actually just wanted to hear the arguments. Can you imagine that? Can you not just hear the arguments? No, we got to shut them down before we can hear them. So anyway, they're all worked up. Whether it be Joe Scarborough, whether it be the ladies on The View, or whether it be Donna Brazile as well. I mean, they're all worked up. Everybody's freaking out at the possibility that actually there may be some ruling for some immunity. I mean, not full blown. I think they're going to actually try and be pretty specific and carve out some specifics here. But, consider what Donna Brazile. So this is Donna Brazile, kind of, you remember, disgraced Democrat strategist extraordinaire. I guess she still is a Democrat strategist extraordinaire. She was over on ABC News over the weekend, and she had something to say to George Stephanopoulos about all this. She kind of got into it with one of the attorneys for Trump, the spokesperson for the attorneys for Trump. And by the way, you just shouldn't do that if you don't really know what you're talking about, because this girl, Sarah, she just like mopped the floor with Donna Brazile. It's pretty great. Drew, do we have the one where she's talking about, I'm not really a lawyer, but blah, blah, blah. And then she's toast. Let's watch it.
I have to make a statement, because I remember Bush v. Gore as if it was yesterday. I do believe that the Supreme Court is dangling to election interference by slowing it down. I'm not a lawyer, Sarah, but I had to listen to the oral arguments the other day. And what I heard, again, was they weren't talking about the facts of the case. They were coming up with all these hypotheticals. That's election. They should go ahead and allow this trial on January 6th to go forward in the district court, and we should know the results before the election.
Sarah, you are a lawyer. You were in the Justice
I disagree strongly with that. The Supreme Court decides questions, not cases. That's what they're supposed to do. They take issues of national importance. I will be surprised if this is not a unanimous decision coming from the Supreme Court that holds that it's not going to be about official acts versus unofficial acts. It's going to be something more like qualified immunity, where if it is so clearly outside the bounds of presidential authority, ordering the assassination of a political rival, of course, that is not going to be immune. But don't forget, 1982, this court held that presidents were absolutely immune from civil liability. It's why they had to take this case. It's not election interference. This is actually the job of the third branch of government.
Perhaps that's one element of the case, but it was remarkable how many of the conservative justices refused to address what Donald Trump did on January 6th.
But you heard that from all of the justices saying this is not about Donald Trump. This is a rule that we're making for the ages. This is a rule that's going to have to apply to future presidents. You saw Justice Kagan asking many of the same hypotheticals as anyone else. So that's why I think this will be a unanimous decision. And I think people took snippets from that oral argument, not understanding that's how the Supreme Court does this. They don't make a rule for this case. They make a rule for all of the cases.
You can still argue the timing. I mean, the District Court of Appeal rendered its decision in February. Jack Smith said all along, the special counsel back in December, go ahead, make the decision. And they're dragging their feet.
If this had been a normal case, Donna, they would have put it on the merits docket for the next fall.
Is democracy denied? I mean, that is what's at stake here.
Selena.
So now the talking point is that this is somehow election interference by the Supreme Court of the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen. Think about that. Think about that. So it's almost like the Hunter thing. It's like, oh, you know what? They're coming after Hunter. I'm going to go on offense. I'm just going to sue Fox News. Now, instead of allowing Donald Trump to go after the Democrats for election interference because they're keeping him in court 4 out of 5 days a week instead of out campaigning, now it's, oh, the Supreme Court is engaging in election interference because they're slow on this case. Well, perhaps they actually just want to decide the case fairly, accurately. What is the pressure to decide it right now if you're actually deciding something for many, many years to come? Well, because they don't want Donald Trump running, period. End of story, right? Full stop. Well, Jack Smith and Fannie Willis and Letitia James and Alvin Bragg, they all could have brought their cases way back when. Like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. No, but they also chose a very specific time and place to be bringing these cases just as we head into the prime election season. So when Donald Trump talks about election interference, I actually think he has a leg to stand on. When Donna Brazile talks about election interference in the Supreme Court of the United States of America, I mean, that just makes me want to throw up. What kind of patriot is she? And now you're going to throw the Supreme Court of the United States under the bus for your own political reasons? Unacceptable. But this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. I mean, she's just so shocked that she had to go out and buy a National Enquirer this week. Watch her here. We have some sound of Donna Brazile. Let's see if we can pull that up. Donna Brazile talking about how she had to go buy a National Enquirer this week. It is how she's just so shocked that we're even talking about a guy that's in jail. How could that ever be possible? We get some guy who's in jail or should be in jail in her estimation, how he should be in jail. And you know what? That's, I guess, perhaps Drew is just working on getting it. There we go. Okay, he's going to have it for you in just a second. But in other words, Donna's like, I can't believe this. She's so incredulous about the whole thing. My gosh, this person who really should be in jail, blah, 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 blah. He's running for office. Here we go. Take it away, Drew.
Donna, you've worked in several presidential campaigns. It's hard to wrap your head around a presidential campaign that is playing out in criminal court.
George, I've never been here before, and I never thought in the years, almost 30 years that I worked in presidential politics and campaigns, that I would ever have to figure out some talking points when your opponent in the case of Donald Trump, is sitting in court all day and not on the campaign trail. So you have very little to react from. And what I see coming from what I often refer to as the messaging points from the Democrats is, hey, go ahead and point out what Joe Biden is doing for the American people, how he's lifting people out of poverty, how he's providing jobs, getting industries back on their feet, and don't get into the salacious, lurid details of this court case. And that's been great. You know, I went out and bought a National Enquirer because I thought Catch and Kill was about, you know, trapping a mouse in the house or figuring out if there are rats around you. I never thought it was about burying stories. There's so much legalese in all of this that I think it's just passing over everyone's head.
Do you guys miss her on the 5? I guarantee you Gutfeld doesn't. Anyway, look, she can be funny. She can be funny at times, but don't forget sort of the direction that she's coming from. Here she is saying, oh, I'm so shocked. I mean, I just can't believe this. This is a criminal thing, this, that, and the other. They've made it that way, okay? Let's be very clear. They have made it that way. And they have chosen for these cases to be coming forward at this point in time for a very specific reason, because they are actually, in my estimation anyway, really trying to interfere with this election. And it's wrong. And it's un-American. It's not who we are. And no matter how much they try, what's amazing about it all is, again, Donald Trump still leads in the polls. So you guys, you know what? You can try and influence this in however many different fraudulent ways you want. I think at the end of the day, American people are going to come forward and say, we want a better country. We want better policies for ourselves and for our children and for our grandchildren. So that'll be the day of reckoning. And then you got to wonder, will they buy that? It's a fair question.